Welcome back to BroBryceGardens, and we're here once again with James Barnum, and looking at his, you call these grape arbors or grape supports or grape trellises?
I'll go with all the above.
Okay, so he's basically, well, let's have you tell us a little bit about what you've done here.
Again, just trying to live a creative life, and sometimes you don't always hit it on the button.
Yeah?
Hopefully this will work though.
So what's your idea with these?
The idea is to, keep the grapes simple and manageable, and increase the yield by pruning the grapevine. And so basically I used rebar, just trying to save money again on trying to get creative on a way to prop these babies up and keep them supported.
Yeah.
And so went with rebar instead of wood. Part of the problem was that the grapevines were already planted. So I was trying to find a way to retro arbor them.
Mm-hmm.
I had a really, really bad idea when I first planted them. And so then I was trying to correct that bad idea.
What was the bad idea?
The bad idea was just I was going to plant these grapes and then I'll wind them around each other, and that they would all support each other. And
be a giant heap.
It was a giant heap, yeah, and it really was a bad idea.
So one of the reasons why I ask him that is because I know that a lot of you guys have watched this series of videos, and you know that we learn much more from our failures than we do from our successes. Generally speaking, my successes have all been like at best educated flukes, and all of my failures have been very calculated miscalculations. And so I like to share those with you as much as the successes. And right here we're looking at like really the dawning of whether or not these are going to succeed or not, correct?
Correct.
So
what I've done is it didn't turn out to be that cheap after all. It was a pretty expensive venture. I went with
how much did this whole setup run you?
I didn't really pay attention to that, because once I knew it wasn't going to be inexpensive, I tried to block it out, as I went through the purchasing. But this is a plastic coated wire. I had read that plastic coated wires, you're going to hold up better. Or vinyl coated wire.
Right.
Went with rebar.
Excuse me, Isaac.
These I think are 10-foot rebar poles, so they're probably 40% into the ground. And then it's supported with another piece of rebar that is almost all the way into the ground.
So you see that this is at an angle, and then you have another piece of rebar, a 10-foot piece?
This was more like a 6-foot piece.
That's all the way in the ground.
It's almost all the way into the ground. Yeah.
And you covered the top of it with like a PVC tee, some of them with elbows and caps and stuff.
This is just so we don't fall and
just so
impale ourselves.
Impale themselves. And then you got these turnbuckles that are essentially these tensioners,
right,
that you're using to tighten everything up. And you made these little loops. So these came like pre-looped, didn't they?
No, this was all, I put all these pieces together in here. That's where the cost was, with like
the fixtures, the
hundreds of these pieces and this piece. And the rebar is, it's not cheap either. And the wire wasn't that cheap.
So essentially, like if we look at this from a little bit of a distance here, it's the tensioners are really just kind of holding them over at an angle just to keep the cable tight toward the middle. And so I'm imagining, like, over time, as the grape arbors become more heavy with grapes and stuff, that you probably have to adjust the tension on both the tops of the cables as well as on the sides, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And we were just talking about something else too, since we're just a couple minutes really into the video, about whether or not what would you call it? You called it
pole pruning versus cane pruning.
Okay. And what would be the different applications of that?
I believe, and I'm no expert, obviously. However,
so again, if you guys have any comments to add suggestions and input to this, it's highly welcome.
Highly welcome. I believe you use a particular style of pruning based on the plant that it is.
Okay.
So some grape varieties it would work better to cane prune them, and some varieties would work better to pole prune them.
Okay. And so, how, if just your pure speculation on which of these plants would be better suited for what would you think? And that being said, you could be wrong.
Definitely, and I would love it if somebody would point that out.
Okay.
But let's look at like this variety here. It looks more like this one would be a pole type pruning, where you actually have the growth down the line, and then each year you cut it back to 2 buds, or cut back to 2 buds, and that's how it grows on the line, and you would leave it all here. The other style, maybe I can show you this plant over here. It's
okay.
This looks more like a plant that would need the cane pruning style of keeping, where ideally I think I would have just cut this here. Every year it would come back to here.
Okay.
I think that, I've seen them taller, so maybe ideally this nobular thing here would be up here. And you cut it here, and then every year it shoots out all the new growth from this mass here.
I need to go get
Yeah, go inside, get warm. No, I'm not going to stand here.
And so you're thinking that, would you base that just based on the fact that that big nobular thing exists, or based on the fact that you have less new growth out here on these other branches than you do, say, on that plant over there that we just looked at?
I think mainly I don't see this style of growth on the other plants. I know that I have another one that's the same variety of grape, but it's basically just looking at this right here and what I've seen in videos online and pictures, that over the years this starts to get really big if you keep pruning it here, and then every year it throws out new shoots from right here.
Okay.
So
just some stuff to think about if you're thinking about doing grapes this year. And yeah, we need some help with brainstorming on how to make this work better. You said this is the first year that you're really giving this a try, right? So, that being said, like, you guys watched me totally fail at worm farming last year, and I appreciate your input on that. I'm going to probably try and give that a try here pretty soon. And I have some friends that deal in red worms closer to home, and I probably will be dealing with that some this year. So thanks for all your input, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about the grape arboring and the pole pruning versus cane pruning. And let's hear what you have to say about that. I really appreciate your input, and we'll see you next week.